I'm now going to have a look at creating your own 2D objects from photos. It's pretty much the same techniques you need for creating panoramas, so if you've mastered one, you shouldn't have any problems with this. So I'll just flip this photo around. Now it's best if you can make sure you get as much plain area around the thing you want to mask as possible. It's going to make it a lot easier to mask off then. Nice plain blue skies, good for trees. I should have bent down a little bit when I took this photo because parts of these leaves are hanging down and the trees behind are a very similar colour, so it's going to be incredibly hard to cut out some of this part of the photo. If I'd have just bent down a foot or so, these would have been framed against the sky and it would have been nice and easy, but you don't always think of that when you're rushing around a golf course taking hundreds of photos. So the first thing I'm going to do is create this as a separate layer, so I'm just going to duplicate it, and then if I turn it off, the original background, I want a plain black background, so I'm just going to get a large brush and just paint that black. So I've got my background, and I can now turn off the background and just work on the layer. So for masking, I said in the panoramas there's different masking tools on different paint programs. I usually use the quick mask a lot, which is great for outlines, but it's not so good if you've got lots of finicky little bits, like the sky is showing through all of here, through the leaves in all sorts of areas, so it's not going to be good for that. The wizard mask is far better, so I'm just going to wizard mask off this sky, and up here there's a contiguous thing you can check. Well, that will only select pixels next to other pixels that you've pointed at. So if I try and select the sky on contiguous, it's selected the outside, but it hasn't selected all the little bits of sky inside as well. So I want to turn contiguous off for this, and then when I click, inside here will also be selected. I'm now just going to use the add command to add in some more colours. That's it, that seems to have masked most of it off. And if I go edit clear, that'll wipe out most of that sky's gone. That looks like it's done a pretty good job. If I deselect it now, yeah, that's a pretty good job. We may get a fringe of sky colours on the edges. It doesn't seem to be too bad on here, but you may find you've got pixels that have still got the sky colours, or at least colours that aren't natural leaf colours around. But I'll show you another method for trimming those off, an easy way of trimming those in a bit. But it's just a matter of using the different tools to trim out all the parts of the photo we don't want. So I'll try and use the quick selection tool now and see if I can get it to mask the trunks. It's going to be tricky. And I'm on add, so I can, let's whiz up there a bit. The brush is too big actually, so I need to make a smaller brush. It might have helped if I started with that. Let's start again. it's still selecting a lot of things I don't want, so I'll probably have to manually cut around those. Now I'm just using the minus tool to trim back to the area I want. Obviously I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing this because the videos need to be short, but you do need to spend quite a bit of time if you want a good job. Obviously the longer you spend the better it's going to be, so I just don't have the time to do it properly on this video. But I've masked around the rest. I'll now just flip the mask over using the eraser brush. I can again trim down. Need a smaller brush obviously to get in there. Deselect, and I should now be able to easily select these parts that I've isolated. It's taken a bit of that off that I wanted to keep, so let's just try that. Clear. So we're getting there. And I can just use the lasso to draw around the parts I want to remove, or try the wizard brush again. I might find, if I set the right tolerances, which I'm not going to bother with just yet, but if I set the right tolerances, you can see I could mask around certain coloured leaves, and it will cut around. The ones I want, and I'd end up with a nice natural looking edge, which I'm not, because I've got the tolerances set wrong. But you can also just use the erase brush with nothing, set the edge fairly hard, and just erase by hand up to the bit you want. You can delete any bits that got caught up by the mask that don't look right, just take them all out. But yeah, I haven't really got time to do all that. But once you've got it masked off, I'll turn the background on again. What you'll notice is there's some pixels all the way along here I'll need to erase. But you can see there's still parts of the blue. We couldn't really see it when it was just cut out without a background, but as soon as you put it on a black background, you can see there's a lot of blue colour that we couldn't notice was there. When I zoomed in, it didn't look that blue, but putting it on a black background, we can see there's an awful lot of blue of the sky that's just created a fringe around our object. So an easy way to take these out, if we select the whole image with Control and click on the thumbnail again, as we did with the pano, we'll create a mask around our image. If we go up to the masking tools and go to modify, there's a contract, and we can actually set a pixel number here, which I've set to 1, and it will actually just shrink our mask by 1 pixel, so it will trim off just 1 pixel around the edge of everything. So if I do that, that should now have selected all the pixels except those very edge ones. You can see the mask has now moved in, and we can trim off those very easily. All we've got to do again, invert the mask, and then we can either use a brush and just rub them out, get a big brush, or we can again use clear and it will just wipe them all out. And if I deselect now, you'll see that blue edge has gone. So we've got our image. We now just need to create an alpha for it, the same as we did with the pano, flatten it out, and we'll be ready to save it. What we do need to do though is make sure it's the right size. There's a limit to 2D objects of 1024 by 1024. Well, I know this image is going to be a lot bigger than that because I'm using my photos from my camera. So the first thing I'm going to do is just crop it nearer to the size it is, and then check on our image size, and I've got it at 2261 at the moment, so I'm just going to shrink that down. I'll use the constraint proportions, that way I can change the height and the width will change automatically. So if I set it to the 1024 I want, because I'm reducing it, I can use the bicubic sharper, which will do a better job at reduction. Click OK. Now it's going to be in a size we can use. I just need to hold control down, select the image and create the alpha channel. So I've got my image selected, go to channels, click the save selection, and that will create the alpha for us. Deselect. Now I've just got to flatten it. And save it out. And we want the TGA. Give it a name. And we'll also need to make sure it's 32-bit so that we get our alpha channel saved and the alpha channels are ticked on the options. So that's on 32-bit. So I'll save it off. And there's our 2D object.